let's see how we can actually use LINQ framework and connect to databases and get the objects created and use them in our MVC, right? And how to filter them using LINQ to. You see here, not integrated with it. Right? Now, so for that, let me install the MVC. So let me create a new project here first. MVC project, and where MVC 4, let me call it as MVC. Let me call it as MVC data site. Let me set the basic here, and yeah, it's set to here. So it will create a project for me. Okay, so we have it here now. So let me put it as a startup project, and now let's install the entity, right? So let me go to manage nugget packages. So we know that in manage nugget packages we will get the entity frameworks and install that. Say accept, and you can see as soon as we create our MVC project, right, we'll have entity framework 5.0 if we install. So it will remove that entity creating, right? You can see. Now, so you can have this as your direct entity, right? So yeah, we'll do one thing. So including entity, no, actually learning entity framework, getting result here, right? So let's do one thing. Let me create a new library here. So what we'll do, we'll create a new library. Let's see how to consume a class library, how to create a class library, right? And then consume the new class library in this entity framework, and we'll actually see how it can be used. So let me create a class library. So here, this is the way how we normally use a class library in any of the type of application. It can be ASP.NET, it can be Windows application, right? Now this is how we can actually use the. So let me call it as MVC data or entity data. Now here I have by default class 1, let's say. So this project or this class library basically, right, is mainly intended to connect to database and retrieve the data. Now let me create new class here. So here what I'm gonna say here is let me call it as DAL, which is data access layer class. This name here, and let it make public. Now this project, now we are going to create all the type of entity objects in this class library and not in my website. But what I'll be doing, I'll be using this class library in the website. Let's look into that. So in this project, before using entity, let's see whether the nugget packages of entity framework are installed or not. Now if not, install it. Okay. So whenever you say install, right, if your solution have got the library, so then it will actually take those libraries and give it as a reference to your entity. So not that important. So now let's add an entity here, which is my data model, entity data model. Let me call it as college model. You can add generate from database, and let's create a new connection with college database here. So we can to the database. So the main task here is we'll have to get the distinct students and we have to display on MVC. Let's see how we can actually read them using our models and displaying what view. So we have a SQL Server node, and let's select college database, test connection, and then OK. Right. So let's call it as college DB context. Right. So we are going to save it in this name so that my class DB context class. Oops, DB context. Right. Will be created with this name. Click on next, and it will retrieve all the details, tables and SPs. Right. Accomplish. Once you click on finish, now it will create a schema for you, and it will create all the models and everything in this class library. Right. Okay, now you can see this is a class library being created. Now what we'll do, in my dial class, I'm going to create a simple method which is public, let's say list of students. Let's say I'm going to call the method as get students. Get student details. Right? It will return all the student details. Now here what I can do, I can use my college DB context. Right? And this, and I can return, right, DB context or your students dot list. Right. So this is how we normally get the data. Right. So my class library is ready to provide me get student details. Now let's see main stuff here. Now we have already seen all the entity framework details, right? So this is how we normally get the all students in my database. Right. Now let's see how I can use this class library in my website, which is in MVC website. Now as a first step, what we have to do is we have to actually access the library here or give reference to the library here. So before that, let's build this library. You can see rebuild MVC data, not this one here. Entity data is something which you have to rebuild. Right click and rebuild this project. Now, so once you are, project is rebuilt, right? Now your reference, which means your reference of this, the DLL reference mainly will get refreshed. Now you can see I'm actually talking about this. So in your, this is a class library, right? Where you can see in bin, let's say debug, or if it's in release mode release, will actually get, you can see your MVC entity data.dll. Now this acts as a class library, right? You can see .dll, which is a dynamic link library. Right? Now let's give reference to my website. Let me close this tab. Now right click on your references and say add reference. So here we have many options. You can go to browse, right, or you can go to solution, where you see whatever projects you have created, right? You can see all the projects here, right? It can be console or anything. Now you can see you have MVC entity data. Now MVC entity data is your class library. Let's say I want this to be used in my project. Click on OK. When you click on OK, right, you can see your library will be added here. See, which is MVC data entity is your reference DLL added to this site. Now let me show you the properties of this. You can see the property you see here. It will be referencing to your MVC data entity bin release, right, and your MVC data entity .dll, which means this is referencing to this DLL, right? So as soon as you refresh or rebuild your solution, right, let's say you are rebuilding your solution, what it does is whatever solution you have already exposed, right, it will first rebuild that solution, right? So once the solution is completely built, right, then it will go back here and it will be using this reference. So this is how we normally give reference from to one project to another, right, and so on. Right. Now let's see how I can actually use this in. Now, so for that, so before that, let me create a controller, right? We have just created a new MVC site with a basic which doesn't contain any controls or any views to use. Let me add a new controller. So let's call it as room. Right now we have a default called index. So let's keep this index. Now let me create a new model and let's say class here. Now let me call this model as, let's say, college info. Right. Now here, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a method public, let's say list of. Now here I want to get students information. See, I'm not able to access this file because I have actually provided a reference to this class library. But if you go to this class library starts with a basic namespace called MVC entity data. You can check this out. If you go to properties, you can see the main namespace of this complete project is MVC data entity, and in this namespaces we have multiple classes, right? So which means that you have to first import or add library, which is your MVC entity data to your class list, and then see I can use my students. Okay, so let's say get students and column. So inside this, what I'll do, I'll just call Dan. You can see now it will be accessible from my card. Now you can see I'm actually calling this class, which is this class is defined in some other class library, right? I'm able to call this DAL in my website model class, in my MVC model class, right? Why? Because I gave it as a reference, and I'm actually added that reference to my class. Let me call it as DL is equal to new DAL, right? And just say return, because your DL dot get student details gives you a list of students. Now here you have all the students, right? Think that this is a basic, it will actually return you a complete details. Now here in home controller, let me create a new, maybe new action result as something called some data, right? Now here what we are going to do, we are going to actually get the model class. So here I have my model called college. Okay, for model class we have to import your namespace first. The namespace is MVC data site dot models, right? Because you can see every time you create, now these are different folders we have. Every time you create any model, it will be under MVC data site dot models, because your folder name will also be considered as an as a part of your namespace. Right? Now you can actually bring it up. College info, let me call it as object. Right? Now this college info contains your actual list. Right? So let's return that view first and return your provide your collection called get students. Right? So what I'm going to do, I'm actually returning a view. As of now we haven't created a view, we'll see that part. Right? So here I have a college info and I'm actually sending it students. Now what does it return? It returns the list of students. Okay. Now let's create a view here. Try to add view. Now let's create this view as a standalone. Let's uncheck everything. We'll come to this master view, partial view, strong type view, complete later, right? Click on add. Now here we have already seen that. Now we have to mention a model type. Now what type of model will this data will accept? this will accept, let's say, list of. Now again, if you want to actually import your student, let's say you can see you have MVC data dot. This is a type of model which you are going to use in your current uh, data data. So in here, let's see how we can actually use that. So we'll display everything in a list, right? Now here, let me use for each. Right? And my collection is at the rate model, because I know that my model is nothing but a collection of students. So I'm gonna get each student. So here, let me list out everything as item dot student. Just say student names and carrier list, unsorted list, as each li in the sense list item, right? So there, what I'm doing is I'm actually taking this Razor script, right, which is my Razor, and Razor enables me to write a C# code, and at the rate will actually make us differentiate between here, which one is HTML and which is code, right, which we have already seen. Now we are printing them. Now let's run this and see whether we are able to get this data. Let's rebuild this project solution. Let's run this. So by default, your home.index will be created, right? Now let's go to home and let's go to your now here you can see we are getting a issue. I mean, we got an exception here that it says there is no connection string context DB college context DB found in application file. Right? I intentionally didn't change this. See what is happening here. As soon as, but if you go to DAL, if you go to this class library with MVC data and go to app config, you can see there is a college DB connection string. But why we are getting issue in here in my DAL here? Because once you reference your application or your class library to any other project type, right? Or let's say here in this case we have written here as a MVC application. Then you have to make sure whatever you have in configurations, main configurations, should be there in your website configuration too, right? Because your configuration files are raw files, right? They can't be embedded directly in your class libraries or DLLs, right? Only main, binaries which can be converted to binaries will be embedded in DLLs or class libraries, right? For that reason, let me copy this connection string which was created by my entity framework, and let me go to my website MVC data site web.config, and here you already have some default connection. Don't worry about it. Let me copy. Let me stop the running first. Now let me copy this and paste it. Right? Now you have a college DB context being created in your web.config, which is a configuration file of your website. Now let's run this and see. This is not only for connections, but it can be any configuration you're using for separate class libraries which you want to use in any other, right? You have to make sure all those configurations are being used, right? Now let's run this and see. So let me say home and data. So home is a controller and data is a action. Now you can see student names, right? All the students, right? Whoever we have, we got the students, right? So this is how we actually, we can actually get the system. Now, let's see how to create a linking between pages, because we have actually retrieved everything from entity framework, right? Now this is something which we got displayed through entity framework in integration with MVC, and then we got the data and we painted everything on a view. Now, so before actually going to the linking part, right? Now, first let's see how to actually move from one page to another page. Now, initially we know that by default my index page will be created, right? So here let me create a new add view for my index. Here what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a link here which will take us to, let's say, data. Now for that we have something called @HTML dot, you can see you have something called action link. It says there are some parameters which you will have to mention, right? Like link text, right? Let's say link text is, let's say, go to data view, comma, and you need an action. Now if all these views are in the same controller, right, then if you give the action name, that will be more than enough. So let's say I'm going to give something called data here, which is my action link. That's it. Now let's run this and see. Now your HTML.action link is something which actually works as a hyperlink or a anchor link, right, which will actually give you a link to it. So here you can see my application is running. Now you can see that a default is running, which says go to data view. Now when I click on this, now it is going to home and data. Now you can see. Right. Now this is how we normally get data. Right. We are actually moving from one page to another. Now let's say here, let's do the use case here. Now what we did something called from home, right? We went to data. Now in data, what we are doing, we are getting all students, right? All the students. Now here, what we are going to do here. So we'll create one more view where we'll say it as data for specific student maybe, where we'll show all the students, and whenever you select the student, right? Now let's say here in this view we want to show details of the student. Right? What we're doing, we're actually moving from one parameter to other parameter, and we'll see how to move your selection whatever you're doing. Right? For that, first what we have to do, we have to convert all the students, whatever we are showing, as a link. Right? Now you would have understood how we can actually create a link. Now before creating link, let me create a new action result, which is my public action result. Let's say data for specific. And here, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a parameter. Let's say I'm going to take a parameter as a name. We'll see how we'll be getting this parameter. If you remember in our routing, right, we have seen one parameter called ID or some key. But here you will see how to read a query string in different ways. Now let's say I'm going to create a string name here, right? And here what I'll do, I'll take a college info, which is obj, let's say equal to more college info, and then let's call a list of student, which is my MVC data entity data dot student, called as stu is equal to I have obj dot get students. Now this will return you a list of students, right? Now here I can actually call my link, right? Because I can apply link on my collection. I will say where, right? I'll say here, like your R, where your R dot student name is equal to name. The name is something which you are passing here, right? And then say select your R, lambda operation R dot list. This is how we normally use LINQ. Now you can see if you have actually gone through LINQ classes, right, which we have gone through more elaborately previously, right? So this will be a simple. Now this is something where I'm actually using transformation of data, right, using some predicates. Right now here I'll be getting all the details, but here what I'm doing, I'm drilling those details using whatever I'm receiving as a name, and I'm doing. So here what I'll do, I'll return a view of existing, which means 2 is nothing but the collection of. Now we'll be creating a new view for that. But you can see here that yes, we are actually getting the list of students here. List of students who have got different, who have got the name same as the name Michelle. Right? So this is one way, which is a transformation. Now if you want to see, let me copy this and comment this. If you want to see how we have learned using from, right, you can also do that. You can say from, let's say R, which is easily called in, right? So let's say where R dot student name is equal to name, right? And then you have select. Right? So this will give you a student. Now here, what you have to do here? What's up here? Okay, conversion is okay. So here, anyways, we are going to convert it. We are going to convert this complete list to list, right? So this is how we do. Now rebuild your application. Now you can see we are using the same conversion, LINQ to get the data based on selection. Now you can see, I will be in a separate view. I'll be moving from one view to other view. Let me create a view here. As add view, let me say data for specific. Right here, I'm going to use this LINQ, which is whatever LINQ I'm creating here, right? The same students. Let me go back here and say a model, which is list of MVC, right? Data documents. Right. So now this also accepts your string list, which is now here. Let's go ahead and display. Now here, what we are going to do, we are going to get more specific details of student, right? So we have to display data in depth. Let's say I'm going to take table where now I'm going to take for each loop in my collection. What is the collection? My model is a collection because my model is nothing but a list of students. Now here, let me show TR, and in TDs, let me show different data. So first TD is, let's say item dot roll number. Now you can see I'm going to get multiple data, right? So I'm going to take it into different TDs. You have item dot, let's say student name, right? And you have item dot, what do you have? Phone number. Let's say, what else we have? Let's say address. Right. Now you can see that yes, based on the selection I'll be doing in some other page, right? I'll come to some other controller which is action view, and I'm passing some parameter. Now as of now, what we have seen from this controller that okay, I've created a new view and I'm plotting this, but now we have to see how to map this data for specific to something called data. Now here we are actually showing all the details, right, in the list. Instead, what we'll do, we'll actually create a hyperlink, which is my HTML.action link, right? Now here you have to give your text. Now text, let's say text will be your same student name, comma. Here you have to give the action name. Action name is your. Now whenever I click on the student name, which action should be triggered? Now I want action to be data for specific, right? Data for specific, comma. Here you can actually give the route values. Now what is route value? This is nothing but what values do you want to push whenever you are actually calling this action method. Now I know that what values it need. It need a name, right? Now let me give the name here. Now what should be the name? The current student name should be the current name item dot. Now here this is how you create a query string in MVC. Now this is something which is called as a route values. You can see this is something which is called as a route values, where you can actually mention key and a value. Now you can have any number of route values. You can be separated by comma. Right? You can give any number of route values. Fine. Now let's run this and see how it's going to work first. So first we go to home. Right? Click on Google Data View. You got, see, now you got all links. Now here at this status bar, right? As soon as I mouse over, see what happens. Let me just make it. Now here this status bar, see what happens when I go to RAM. See what is the link? Home / data for specific, which is your action. You can see question mark where your name is equal to RAM. You can see that. If you go to Kiran, see, as soon as you see, you are actually creating something dynamic. How? By creating your action link, and in action link you are giving populating data dynamic. Now here let's click on SAM. See what happens. If you go to the next page view, see data for specific, where we have name SAM. Now you can see whoever I have SAM, right, name as SAM, I'm getting all the results, right? And if you want to actually make it so here you can actually set style here. Let's say I'm going to make some border solid border with let's say green, right? So let's say let me take some border color. So let's say green. Right, so this is something which I'll be using for all TVs. I'm just using some. Let's refresh this. And refresh. Now we know that, right? We have a data for specific and name is SAM. Now you see all the records for SAM. Right? Let's get back. Now here in this data for specific, we haven't made any get back, right? Now let's create the go to back option also. We'll see how. So after this table, let's say I'm going to create one more link, which is HTML.action link. Now here, let's say back data, comma, you have to do action. Your action is data. Right? A simple way. Now, as of now, we haven't seen going across controllers. In the same controller, we are actually moving from one view to other view. So for that, you don't have to mention any controller. This is simple text which will be displayed as a link, and you are actually giving to which action it should go. Let's run this. So you have go to data view, which is at home. Now let me click on RAM here. Now you can see all the details of RAM will be displayed. Back to data. Kiran, we'll see Kiran, back to data, right? Again RAM, back to data, SAM, back to data, Arun, back to data, right? So you can see everything in. Now let's say here in students, right? We are displaying duplicates, right? Now let's see how to display. First, let's display the unique ones. Now, where are we doing that query? Now here, while displaying here, we are doing it right, which is college data here. Now let's go to students here. Now here we are getting into students. In my model class itself, let me make it as, let's stop this. So here, let's say your list of student is, let's say your data is equal to, I'm not going to return it directly, but I'll return the. So here on this collection, what I can do, I can actually apply. So I have select R dot, I can select something called distinct, right? When I say distinct, right, it will actually give you distinct student names, right? Because I'm getting student here, right? When I say distinct, it will get the distinct. Let's run this and see how it works. Now again, this is something which is a link we have used. Now we will load a home page. Click on this. If you go to data map, now you can see we're not able to see this one. So here we're selecting distinct data. Should be distinct. Right? Student, but as student is equal to this distinct dot list. Right? So here what I'm doing, I want only the student, because I know that I'll be actually displaying the students. Right? So I'm taking the student name here, and I was actually making it as a student object here. Now what I'm doing, as I'm taking only student name here, so here the student is string. So let's convert this to string this time. Rather making it as this, let's convert to string, and let's just do this here. Right? And in my data, let's get back to data here, and let me say this is something which is string. Right? This is actually a string.
Srinath?
Yes. Yeah.
Srinath, yeah, why we are using distinct?
I actually got your question. While we are showing run this and show you. I'll show you why I'm actually, once you see why I'm actually, see this, right, then you'll understand actually. Let me just go to view. Got an error. Object reference not set here. Right? Until unless you send your object, whatever you want to send, to instantiate in a view, it will not know which model it has to use. Right? Now let's click on data view. Now you can see this. Now I'll actually let you know why we are actually taking the distinct. Now we know that when you have distinct names here, but for RAM we know that there are 3 records. Now if you want to see, then you can always go to specific and see all the records, right? But let's say there are 100 guys with name Sam, right? I can't actually go with this 100 names. I mean, I'm just taking an example, I'm saying, right? But yes, if there are first name and last name, if they are different, right? then it will be different. Right? But here why I am taking distinct names, let's say I want to show the distinct names, but I want to see with this SAM how many guys are there. Then I can actually see all the roll numbers and SAMs. Similarly, yeah. Right? That's why I actually made it distinct. Right? So
Okay.
previously what mistake we were doing is we were actually going to the student and we are actually making distinct, but we forgot that it was actually returning the whole record of student, but on which we have to make a distinct only on one particular column, which is a student name, right? So for that, what we made, we actually came to a specific student name we selected, and then we made distinct, which means it will be distinct, and I'm making it unique. Where here I actually don't want a complete student, rather I'll instantiate a string, which I went back and actually changed the model type, and I was successful in showing the distinct students. Right. So this is how we actually have designed it. Now the first one, what we designed is a home controller, where you can see there was a data, right, where I was actually using a separate site class library called MVC data site, right? Sorry, it is not MVC data site, it is MVC entity data, right? Where I was using a model class called college info. I am using MVC data entity to get the actual details from database, right? And I'm using this single model college info, you can say, in multiple action levels. This is one action, and this is another action where I'm getting the students, and I'm in this specific what I'm doing. As soon as I get some trigger from my data view, where it is actually throwing me some parameter, right? I'm actually using the parameter. You can see here, I'm actually sending a query string and some data, and where I'm actually catching it. If you go to controller, you can see we are actually getting it as a parameter. But this is something which is making where you are actually getting the name. If you want to see, check it out. Now if you go back here, back to data, click on here, see, you get a name here. That's the reason why when you go ahead in this link, right, we're actually making sure that you're actually you're getting this data only for. Similarly, go back and click on something SAM. Right, you're actually getting a query string as a parameter of your action method. Right? Now this is how you can actually use your link data to link different pages. Right? So this is about the entity framework LINQ integrated with MVC. Right, to get data from database and actually drill it down to multiple levels and show it. And this is how we navigate from one page to another page, right? Where we actually use something called action link, where we have only one, let's say, action. Right. So if you want to move across different controllers and actually get different piece of information on different controllers, we'll see that part, right? Where we'll be actually moving from one controller to other controller, again one, right? So here till now what we were doing, we were in a home controller where you can see my data, index, data specific, everything is there in the same controller. That's the reason why if you go to any view we created, we were using only action name. Here again data specific is action name, index again, right? Everything is action name we were using, and we were not using any control name. Why? Because we know that it is the same controller. So in our next class we'll see when we create a controller, and if you want to pass much of data, like full stuffed data in from one to another, from one page to another, right? We'll see how to do that. Right? So any questions till now? Now this is something which is very important to understand, how to integrate your entity links and with your MVC.